Say hello to my little friend. 2028, 1721, 1717, 1512, 1406, 1007, 0808. You guys can see the difference in this. Look how much bigger it is. Oh, that was the chair, not me. How's it going, guys? Welcome back to Innovation RC. Today we're doing an ultimate motor review, pretty much on all the brand new Castle motors, old, new, all this and that, whatever. So we're gonna be comparing and contrasting a bunch of them as we go up in scale. We're also gonna be showing you exactly which motors were used on cars on this channel. If that seems interesting, make sure you drop a like and subscribe for more, because we're gonna hop into this right now. Whoa! Starting off, we have the Micro 0808 over here. This little guy I actually had in a Micro B 5 years ago. I don't actually have a video of it, but here it is, very cute. But there's also no sensor port. But usually on motors this small, generally it's difficult to have anything with a sensor. But you could run this motor up to 3S LiPo, make a little tiny Micro B like this, do 30, 40 plus miles an hour, which is kind of crazy. So this little motor's got its own little place. Up next, we have this beautiful 10 series motor. This is a 1007, and this is the 0808. Now, as you guys can see, there's definitely a height difference, and there's also a thickness difference as well. The 10 series is also the smallest motor you can buy from Castle, or the series that you can buy from Castle, that has a sensor port, so you can actually run these motors censored. Now, there's two different variants of the 10 series. There's the 1007, which is this, and then the 1010, which is like a couple millimeters taller, same thickness. Now, as for the scale that you wanna run the 10 series motors in, it's gonna be in pretty much anything around this big, 5 pounds or less, and you're gonna be probably 1/18, 1/16 scale, 1/14 scale, and you're gonna be around there for what you're gonna wanna run the 10 series in. I actually ran a 1010 4400 in Project Eyeball when I upgraded him. Now, Project Eyeball is an Arrma Mojave Grom, and to do 90 miles an hour in something like this big, it's really stressful. It's really stressful, to be honest. Anyway, I was running it up to 4S LiPo, but I also had a Castle Mamba XESC to run this size motor up to 6S LiPo, which I personally don't recommend. But it did it, and we did 93 miles an hour, and there's still a lot left to go, and it actually flipped. That's why it stopped at 93. These little tiny motors, they're workhorses. They really are, and they're censored. Now, up next, we now have our 14 series. Now, you guys can see it starts around the same height, but the thickness is much, much thicker. That's because this is able to be ran in a 10 scale vehicle or a very, very light 8th scale 2-wheel drive vehicle. Either way, there's 1406, there's 1410, which is slightly taller, 1412, which is slightly taller than that, and then there's 1415, which is borderline an 8th scale motor. These motors you're gonna wanna put in like a 10th scale vehicle, usually 10th scale monster trucks, Traxxas Rustler, Traxxas / 2-wheel drive, any of those vehicles. These motors are really, really good. In this series, one vehicle that I run that I love is gonna be Project Booger. Now, why I call him Project Booger is because he's not that big, he's really fast, and he's green, hence Project Booger. I'm like, damn, that's a fast booger. Literally how he got his name. Now, the exact motor that's in Project Booger is actually a 1412, which is slightly taller than this, 3200 kV. Now, that motor on 4S is an absolute monster. It really is. That is the motor that I run specifically in my Relarlo Terminator, which is Project Booger. And they come in many different sizes, many different kV variants. So with that being said, if you guys haven't seen Innovation RC on Instagram, make sure you check it out. And if you leave me a message on there, I could help you figure out what motor might work best for you. Anyway, back to our scheduled program. Next up, we have our 15 series. Now, this is where it's gonna get interesting, guys. You guys can see that there is definitely a height difference, and there's also a thickness difference. 14, 15 series. So obviously the 15 series is gonna be able to run much higher voltage. Instead of on average, 2 to 3S on these guys, this can run up to 6S. Well, the 2650 is really a 4S motor. So this is actually the smallest of the 15 series lineup from Castle. This is the 1512. There's also a 1515 2200 that I actually ran in Project Midnight to do over 120 miles an hour, easily. Project Midnight is an Arrma Typhon 6S, and it easily blasts past 100 and 120 miles an hour with that motor in it without it blowing up on itself. on 6S. So it's a great motor. It's actually the AK-47 of 8th scale motors. That's just in my opinion. I think that they're really good. 1512, 1515, and then there's also the 1650 kV, which is a 1520, which is even longer than this one. It's actually longer than the 1717 over here. And that is used on Project Hydro, which is a Hobeo GTB, and I made him liquid cooled, and he has done 119 miles an hour, and the reason why he's a little bit slower despite having a larger motor, well, I didn't want to go faster because I just don't want to crash Project Hydro. He's such a slick, badass build. And with that being said, that's really the start of where all things that just get badass start to turn badass, is this series right here. Moving on. Now we have the 17 series, 1717. This motor in particular actually came out of my original Traxxas XO1. No, this is not a Traxxas motor. It's actually an original Castle. Let me try to turn it around. It's an original Castle. Traxxas actually adopted over Castle Electronics in order to break 100 miles an hour. Doing a height check right here. Here's our 1512. This is our 1717. Keep in mind, this motor is over 12 years old now. This actually comes in obviously a much newer, completely revamped series, just like all the green ones that you see here with the sensor cable, this and that. I just like my good old 1717, who doesn't? Now the 1717 comes in two different kV variants. There's the 1650 and then there's also the 1250 kV, which Castle thought, actually this is the identical size. We can make it into an OEM replacement for an Arrma Creighton 8S. The original version, not the newer version with the 56 series 1100 kV in it. And obviously the newer ones that you can buy, they're more efficient, they push a little bit more power, the rotors are much better, they can handle more RPM. You can pretty much put this motor into any 8th scale truck, even a 7th scale limitless. Like, it's big, but it's not too big to where you can't put it in most of the things that you want to put it in. Hence why it's a great motor. Moving on up here, we have our 1721 2400 kV motor, and yeah, it is actually the identical thickness as the 1717, of course, because it's still of the 17 series. Only difference is this is 2400 kV. This has got a lot of RPM. I actually hit 147 miles an hour on 6S with my Arrma Limitless by mistake. I did not even think I had it geared that tall, only on 6S. And the 1721 comes in two different kV variants. It comes in the 2400 kV, which is the Castle speed run motor, and that's obviously for on-road purposes only, or a 1260 kV, which is meant for off-road and 8S, and actually 10S, but really 8S. What you would want to put this motor in, you could run this in a 7th scale or even an 8th scale. You know, it's on the bigger side, it is, but it's just gonna run a lot cooler. Obviously the 1260 kV if you're bashing. Arrma Mojave, my Arrma Big Rock 6S, I mean, those cars are just perfect with this kind of motor in there. And it doesn't get too hot either because the motor is made for something that kind of big. Actually kind of larger. You can put it in an X-Max, but you're gonna need an aftermarket motor mount. Nonetheless, it's perfect. It absolutely is. Without it being too big or heavy if you're not looking to get into the true 5th scale motor area. Finally, we are gonna be up in our 20 horsepower range with this guy right here. This is the previous 1721, and this here is a 2028. There's a big difference, literally big. I gotta actually put it down because I can't physically twist the motor around. You can see the difference between the 2028 and this. Just the thickness is just insane. It really is. Censored, there are 3 different kV variants in this. I hit 160 miles an hour with the 1100 kV 2028 in Project Spartan. Back in 2021, he is my fastest RC that's currently recorded on a GPS. And that's also when I stopped speed running because that road closed down. This motor, after doing over 160 miles an hour, came back warm. It wasn't hot and it wasn't cold. It was ready to do another run, actually. Not saying you can dash with 160 mile an hour setup. Now, another project that I can't forget that I did actually have 2 of these in, dual motor, is Project Colossus. Now, Colossus is my dual motor Arrma Creighton 8S EXB, and he was able to pull a freaking school bus. And it's so hard to actually say, just take my word, it actually happened. It actually did. This here, you could put in a Creighton 8S, DBXLE, anything big like that. 3 different kV variants. We have 800 kV, 1100, and the 1700. The 1700 is going to draw the most amps. Now, if you're looking to speed run, this here on 8S, the 1700 kV on 8S, That's what you want for 8S. If you're speed running on 6S, 2400 kV, 1721. If you're bashing in something very big, heavy, and off-road, you want the 800 kV variant. And I know I said you can run the 1700, but before the 1700 kV variant came out, I ran this, which is the 1100 kV in Project Spartan. And that's that. I mean, people have pulled over 25, 26, 27 horsepower with this motor right here. I mean, it's an absolute brick. It really is. And these motors can really push that amount of power.
Say hello to my little friend.
This here is the brand new 2535 motor from Castle. And 2535 is the class, it's not the KV. 520 kV, and there's another variant, 680 kV, little bit more RPM. Now here's the size comparison between 2028 and 2535. You guys can see the difference in this. Look how much bigger it is. Now I have the backs lined up. It's almost an inch longer, and we could see the thickness as well. That is just a big, big, big difference on how much wider this is. This is a 56 series motor. This is a 70 series motor. This could be ran 8 to 12S. This is a 12 to 16S motor. And of course, if you run this on 12S, it's just gonna run beautiful. Based on the size and KV, 12S, it really doesn't even tickle this thing. Hence why 14, 16S is really gonna make this motor wake up. 12S is really more than enough to get this thing right here to throw any 40, 50 pound RC thing around like a rag doll. Anything 5th scale, quarter scale, even a 3rd scale. Honestly, let me take that back. You can use this in some Uber devices, such as maybe an e-bike, maybe an electric go-kart, or anything in that kind of area. You can run 50, 60 volts to this and actually still put out that kind of power in order to move a me. Anyways, so the one vehicle that I was actually able to put this little bundle of joy right here is the Arrma Limitless. And believe it or not, no, it doesn't even fit in Colossus, which is my Creighton 8S EXP. So hence why Megalodon is even a thing. And we cannot keep tires on him ever. There's way too high of a power to weight ratio to where tires are not a thing at all that stays on the car. We tried Hoons, we tried GRPs. I'm not even gonna waste my time with foam tires, but anyway, I even tried solid rubber tires, the Vipazes from M2C or Westaz. And believe it or not, those solid rubber tires, well, they lasted longer than your standard rubber belted tire, but even then, so a solid rubber tire still wasn't able to keep up with what this thing was able to dish out. And that's just the nature of the beast. It's unfortunate, but I didn't exactly build Megalodon to be efficient on tires. I built it to beat the hell out of this motor, and this motor has never gotten above 110 degrees on any of my testing. So funny enough as it is, this motor is an absolute beast. You can put this in a Losi 5B, you can put this in a Kraken Vecta, anything 5th scale, quarter scale. M2C actually offers a stretch chassis conversion in order to fit this in an Outcast or Creighton 8S, and it pretty much just makes it into a little bit longer of a 5th scale, just so you can mount this motor, which is great. And anything else that's just massive. You can really do a lot with this motor in the large scale world. 30 horsepower on 12S, 40 plus horsepower you can definitely get on 16, and the sky's the limit. So if you guys have any questions regarding gearing, what motor to run, the KV variant of this motor as well, make sure to look up my Instagram and text me on there, message me on there, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible, so make sure you do that. Let's just do a little size comparison here. This is the biggest motor. This is the smallest motor. Look at that difference. That is just crazy. 2028, 1721, 1717, 1512, 1406, 1007, 0808. Phew. All right, so we're pretty much done here, guys. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like and subscribe for more. I appreciate all of you guys watching. And if you found this helpful, comment on what you think helped you out on making your build that much better. Alrighty guys, I appreciate you watching. And as always, make sure you stay safe and have a good one.